absolutely love old sayings. You all know that. And cool quotable quotes. Let's start off today's podcast with an oldie, but a goodie, from then Congressman Ron Paul. Here we go. My warnings go unheeded. Oh, let me start over. My warnings go unheard, as your cries for mercy surely will. Yeah, it is Thursday the 26th of May, 2022. I'm trying to break in my new mouth here, obviously, because I'm stumbling around on my points I'm trying to make. Cries for mercy to our sympathetic and compassionate Chinese and Russian invaders, those goddamn Russians. Alright, people. 2 days ago I told you on Golf Alpha Bravo I was called a effing commie. Yesterday on Golf Alpha Bravo, a guy, some dude, called me a racist Democrat. What? Because I dared to point out Trump is no friend of real Americans? I'm now a racist Democrat? I don't know how that 2 plus 2 equaled 5, but what a soy boy. Truly a case of one ball short of a full sack, I would say. And yesterday, I lost a sub. I can only assume it was because I didn't worship the Donald, and I won't be riding the red wave come November. Soy boys, people. One ball short of a full sack. Grow a pair, or your chance of survival will go to 0. Today's podcast will contain links, 2 of them, you lucky people, one a 2-minute and one a 46-minute. In the spirit of fair play, since yesterday I was hard on Trump and the Republicans, I'm telling you people, Trump has only 2 great loves, himself and Murray. Get over it, or go ahead and practice your pleading for mercy one-liners with the Chinese and the goddamn Russians. So what's the idiot up to lately? You know, the imposter-in-chief occupying the White House? From Tucker Carlson. Let's check it out. I know some of you don't like Tucker Carlson, but suck it up, Buttercup. Here we go.
Whatever the problem is, it's not the gun lobby. They're not the reason those children were murdered yesterday. It's insulting and divisive and stupid. This is too serious a moment for nonsense like that. Stop. But over at MSNBC, they were completely convinced. Watch.
And again, as President Biden said, I thought he did an extraordinary job last night.
Oh, wait a minute. We got to play President Biden.
Ask, when in God's name are we going to stand up to the gun lobby? When in God's name we do what we all know in our gut needs to be done? What in God's name do you need a solvent for except to kill someone? Deer aren't running through the forest with Kevlar vests on, for God's sake. It's just sick. And the gun manufacturers have spent 2 decades aggressively marketing assault weapons, which make them the most and largest profit. For God's sake, we have to have the courage to stand up to the industry.
For God's sake, in God's name. Oh, what's God's name there, idiot? I mean, you know, you guys are only hearing the audio. I gotta look at this. POS. I think you guys can figure out what that stands for. Do I only pick on Republicans? No, people. In the spirit of fair play, I pick on them all. Okay, now why, Mr. Imposter, do we need assault weapons with high-capacity mags? Oh, and by the way, the gun lobby? You know the NRA filed bankruptcy last year? The NRA spent a whopping $2 million lobbying, and that was in 2020, during a presidential election. Compare that to Big Pharma. Compare that to Big Tech. It's not even a drop in the bucket. Give me a break, the gun lobby. We need high-capacity mags. You ever see a BLM and Antifa rally? Well, there's your first answer. Second, China and those goddamn Russians. Oh yeah, people. More on that later in this podcast. Hey, idiot. The Second Amendment wasn't written, you know, his deers running through the forest with Kevlar vests. It wasn't written so that my mailman, no names people, can go hunting 10 days a month, 12 months a year. Boy, what a job. I mean, some people get all the dry spots on the pile of shit at the U.S. Postal Service. My buddy, It was written to repel threats that our own government posed continuously to we the people. I'll tell you what, I wish I had an M79 grenade launcher. Not saying that the M203 isn't cool, but I'm just not familiar with that dude. Oh, come on, Dave. What's a goddamn Navy cook doing with an M79 grenade launcher, huh? Really? Bullshitter. Stolen valor. Hey, I wasn't a Navy cook, number one. I was a scope dope. And true, my daily duties did not require an M79. But did you draft Dodge and Sand Crabs ever hear of guard force personnel? Yeah, cooks, scope dopes, machinist mates, just about any crew member could be impressed in duty sections to patrol the ship, especially in foreign ports, humping M14s that were full auto, rock and roll. And we had M79s and M60 machine guns in our landing force locker. And periodically the gunner's mates would put them out, set them up on the fantail, and let us familiarize ourselves with them. We had the 50 cals too, but they never let us play with those. Must have been too expensive. Short answer, our ship wasn't big enough to carry a Marine detachment. We were them. Boy, did I digress. Moving on. It must be the depression from losing a sub that's acting upon me, making me divert like this. Alright, the first link is pure comedy, people. The Bidiot from 2013, telling people you don't need an AR-15. It's harder to aim, harder to use. Okay, let's just play a little bit of this. Question and answer time.
If a ban goes into effect on certain kinds of weapons and high-capacity magazines.
And what's your name?
Kate.
Kate, if you want to protect yourself, get a double-barrel shotgun, have the shells, a 12-gauge shotgun, and I promise you, as I told my wife, we live in an area that's wooded and somewhat secluded. I said, Jill, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony here, or walk out, put that double-barrel shotgun, and fire 2 blasts.
I don't need to say more. I'm not going to give you a spoiler alert here, people. You need to watch it. That was just the first 38 seconds. Cool as hell. And watch it or don't. Okay. Now, if you got 2 minutes and need a little humor, I really think you should watch it, because hearing it isn't going to do justice to it. And finally, more on the China invasion. Yep. A few minutes from the 46-minute second link. I think you need to hear this. And here we go. It's John Moore talking to Mike Adams. And yeah, I want you to especially pick up the channel here. You want to go and check this out and check out his latest information from J.R. Nyquist.
I don't know what the timeline is exactly for the Chinese, but I think our job as a broadcast journalist is to warn people so they can make whatever final preparations they can make to get their food, to get their water filters, to get ammunition, get whatever training things they can get in, get their first aid training, and so forth. If this invasion begins, it will be an absolute nightmare, and tens of millions of Americans will die. Mike, that's exactly what will happen.
Hey, how many times have I told you guys, you good subs, that have a pair and don't run up? Buy stuff, people. Buy it while you can. Get it when you can get it. You put it in a garden. I got a top secret mission this morning to get more dirt. Kids.
If this invasion begins, and by the way, I completely agree with the assessment you just mentioned that China would bring in troops from Mexico using the narco routes, and they've been working with the Mexican narcos. They would also bring in troops from Canada because China's been training there, and they've been working with the treasonous communist Justin Castro Trudeau.
Justin Castro Trudeau, PM of Canada. You know where that's coming from? They're claiming his daddy was the Fidel Castro of Cuba. Put the picture side by side. Look at the evidence. Could be quite a case to be made that, yep, fruit of the loins.
In order to accomplish that. But then also they would actually land troops on Western California, the coast of California. They would establish a beachhead there, probably with the cooperation of Governor Newsom. is what I've been told.
My friend, Command Sergeant Major Dan Page, I got some interviews on my website with Dan. He got on a Black Hawk helicopter at MacDill Air Force Base in Florida, flew across the Gulf to listen carefully, a Russian military base in Mexico. This is 20 years ago.
Wait a minute now, people. My memory is totally intact. How about you? You remember this? Okay, let me find it up here. Oh, no, don't fail me. A video driver went out. Yep, sure as hell. From the Denver Post in 2012. Fort Carson Army Base trains with Russians. Yeah, Russian Spetsnaz. Wonder why they would do that. Why would Russians, and that was 2012, be training at Fort Carson, Colorado? Nothing new under the sun, people. Basically, it is old news. Here we go.
This has been going on a long time, and I don't know how many Chinese troops are in Mexico right now. It has to be several thousand. I don't know how many Russian and Chinese are in Canada. Once again, has to be several thousand. These reports have been coming in for months. That the Chinese are in Canada, the Chinese are in Mexico. They're not there for vacation, Mike. They're there to prepare for war. That's exactly what's going on. And once again, we look at the credibility of our witness, Jeff Nyquist, J.R. Nyquist. This man, he has incredible credibility. I used to joke when President Trump was in office that Jeff Nyquist should have a workstation in the West Wing of the White House advising the president on the true nature of the international communist conspiracy. Obviously, that didn't happen, but it should have. That's how much I respect Jeff Nyquist and his work.
I agree with your assessment there as well, and I interviewed, and perhaps you did as well, Dr. Yan Limong, who is the Hong Kong virologist who blew the whistle on China's plans to...
Let me jump in here for a quick second, because we're almost getting to the end of this. Just a little short snippet. This doctor, this Chinese woman from Hong Kong, is featured in Mike Adams' most recent podcast. And I'll tell you what, she's difficult to understand, but I'm not going to knock her English. I sure as hell can't speak Chinese. But if you can hear her message, and she's featured with, what's his face? Oh, I'm drawing a mental blank. JR. It's well worth your listen to. Here we go.
Unleash a hemorrhagic fever bioweapon onto the United States in the very near future, and it's certainly likely that that would be timed with an
hemorrhagic weapon, bioweapon. He's talking about the Ebola, bleed them out.
Invasion, so that
it would be. And
yes.
Two Chinese colonels published a book about asymmetric warfare. It's been 18, 20 years ago. I think it's titled, if I'm not mistaken, Unlimited Warfare. It's not a very big book, but they get into what's called asymmetric warfare, which is the 20 different...
Asymmetric warfare. I hate to keep jumping in here, people, but I got to pat myself on the back. I talked about that, 2-3 weeks ago. They're coming at us from every direction imaginable. I can see it clearly from the wall.
Ways to wage war. Not just planes and tanks and bombs, but economic warfare, social warfare, and of course, most important of all, drumroll please, biological warfare.
Right.
Now, the Chinese have been attempting. We don't know if they've been successful to have a biological weapon that targets Caucasians. They've been struggling to do that for years.
Caucasians people are white people.
Maybe they got it, maybe they don't. But they're going to make do with what they got, Mike, won't they?
They will, and let's bring up an important issue here let's go back to World War II. And the way that America and the Allies won that war was because America had the industrial base. America had domestic steel. America had sources of rubber. America could make tanks and planes and GI boots and socks and ammo and everything and ship it east to the theater of war to defeat Hitler, and also at the same time, of course, fight in the Pacific theater. But now, of course, the economic output, the industrial output is China. So China's in the position that America was in World War II. And all China...
Exactly. Adolf Hitler was shown the manufacturing numbers for aircraft being built in the United States. He said, that can't be true. They can't possibly make that many airplanes, but we were. The industrial base of the United States switched over from making cars and pickup trucks to making tanks and aircraft and so forth.
Only 1 minute left. Be patient.
And they did that in a relatively short time. I think mainly because there was no EPA or OSHA to deal with.
Right.
Relatively quickly.
Yeah, I mean, a few people lost their fingers on the car factory floor, but we produced tanks and defeated Hitler. You know what I mean? Now, I don't mean to make light of workplace injuries, by the way, but you make a good point, John, which is the over-regulation of everything. And also, our culture's been lost. We've lost the culture of hard work. Look at today's youth. Although there are exceptions of some extraordinary young people, by and large, they are lazy, pathetic soy boys who refuse to work, don't want to work, can't work with their hands, can't change a tire. How are they going to build machines of war to defend our country?
The average man in this country under age 40 couldn't change a spark plug if you put a pistol to his head. It's pretty dismal.
True.
Seriously. Yeah. Let alone set the gap properly on a spark plug. They wouldn't have a clue what you're talking about.
They couldn't even rack the slide on the pistol that you're holding to their head, by the way.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know what to do.
We can joke about the soy boys, but...
Soy boys, also known as one ball short of a bull sack. They didn't get into today's modern military. Yeah, you know the ones. The Rainbow Division. Boy, I think some of them are 2 balls short of a bull sack. Okay, people. Now, I mentioned that 2012 article from the Denver Post. You know, Russia training with U.S. troops. Can't figure out any strategic reason why somebody'd want to do that. They are, after all, the goddamn Russians, the enemy. Why isn't Russia using their elite special forces in the Ukraine? Spetsnaz, you ever heard of them? Well, who says they ain't? And then, just maybe, just saying, because they're all over here, perhaps already waiting for the green light, which means go, people. Let the games begin. And before the games start, I better get going, because I got stuff to do.